Good afternoon, one and all. Thank you very much for all coming along. Just as John said, just to reaffirm a couple of things, despite my youthful appearance, I've been around the sector for 30 years. I was formerly the chief executive of Southern Cross in the good old days, and I laterally was the chief executive of Priory Group. But more than that, I'm a nurse first and foremost, and I was also a home manager for many years. And the point being that I understand, hopefully, what it's like to run a care home from the grassroots level upwards, and then what it's like to be responsible for a group of homes on a day-to-day basis. I still am the registered individual for 4 of my own care homes. I have 2 homes in Birmingham and 2 homes in Northern Ireland today. And in a different company, we oversee and continue to run those homes. But when I left Priory Group, I racked my brain many a time to try and work out how do we ever address the issues of ongoing safeguardings, of unexplained injuries, of regular complaints, of all sorts of different problems that I know a care home has. How do we ever get a system that deals with that? And in the end, we come up with a visual system. And as John has already said, here comes the Marmite moment. What do we actually do? We set up Care Protect, and Care Protect does this. We use the latest technology, which is a secure cloud technology. And then we also employ a team of highly trained experts. So if you get a chance to look at our website at some point, you will see the actual biographies there. Those individuals are trained nurses, trained social workers, have been in the sector for a very, very long time, and are specifically trained to do what I'm about to discuss with you. So why camera surveillance? The reality is, in the last, just to give you a little bit of background, under the Freedom of Information, 431 principal authorities, we asked those authorities about safeguarding referrals over the last 5 years. 20 responded, and in the 20 that responded, they reported they had had over 100,000 safeguardings. So that kind of leads you to think, well, how many safeguarding referrals have we had in total if every authority responded? So the issue is that we often see that resident abuses or the allegations of abuses continue. Public trust seems to remain low. I get a Google alert every single day about what's happening in the care home environment, and every single day there's a story about a care home. The regulation process, despite regulation being tightened up over the years and despite reincarnations of the regulator, and it's a very robust regulator, the reality is 2-3 times a year is a snapshot in time only. I'm talking about a process now that is a 24/7 service. Commissioner compliance visits. We often see commissioners coming in wondering, are you complying with the terms of the contract? We believe the system that we have got now can actually provide data evidence to support that. NHS TripAdvisor recently has surfaced, and now anyone can go onto the NHS website and make a comment about your home or any particular care environment or any particular institution. We want to know that if somebody's making a comment about ours or the clients we represent, that we have hard data to either support their allegation or refute it. Transparency issues. One of the features of our system is that we have a login option for next of kin. So if a mother or a father has had a difficult day and a son or a daughter wants to know how they are, through a unique PIN number process and a consent process, they can log on to that camera and they can see their loved one in their room at a particular point in time. That is very reassuring. There is a deterrent effect, and we have noticed with some client homes, and I have to admit one of my own homes, after I left Priory and was working in one of my own homes, what I perceived to be a very good service was actually quite different after I put a camera system in place. And after we were getting the monthly report from the monitors, there were things that weren't just good enough. And staff training can be much more focused. As we go through, I'll talk to you about some things we have seen that demonstrate that funds that are spent in training can be spent in a very focused way. And it clearly, in our view, promotes the delivery of sustainable, and I use that word very strongly, sustainable, high quality service. What are the compliance issues? And there are many. There's a CCTV Code of Practice, the Data Protection Act. The client acts as the controller. Care Protect, or another company, if that was the case, acts as the processor. Above all else, this is a consent-based overt system. So every resident with capacity is asked to provide written consent. Every resident that doesn't have capacity either has an advocate through an enduring power of attorney or a health and welfare power of attorney or a court of protection or indeed a best interest assessment before the system is operational in that particular room. We provide things like the privacy impact assessment. That has to be considered before you use these services. The Information Commissioner's Office, you have to be registered so that the data you collect, they effectively know that you're collecting that data. All of our monitors are SIA licensed and trained, so the people that are looking at the particular images are not just healthcare professionals, are not just DBS checked. They are licensed by the Security Industry Authority, and they've also undergone an extensive training program from the SIA. And the system complies with the Police and Criminal Evidence Act issues. So how does it operate? We put a PIR camera in everyone's bedroom, assuming they've consented, and in all of the communal areas. The cameras are then wired to a locked hub, and that hub sits in the care environment. The moment an image is captured, that image is taken off-site and goes into a secure cloud environment, so nobody at the home can actually interfere with an image or remove an image. The cameras operate at individual ambient settings, and by that I mean they're not 24/7 cameras. We assess every individual, and then the cameras react on the basis of noise, heat, light, or movement. And so if this is a normal day for a person, anything that changes above and beyond that normal day, the camera starts to record and it recovers the image. The clip is then viewed. Within 15 seconds, that clip is sent to a monitor, and the monitor then views that clip and decides on a triage basis if we actually need any intervention immediately. Anything that isn't a red event, i.e. an urgent immediate event, is then put into a monthly report as a training need or as a good practice issue, because there are many, many cases of excellent practice, and we have now got images of those movements between residents and staff. And I talked briefly about the login feature. But again, I re-emphasize it records only on an event basis. So this in a flow chart is very quickly how it works. The camera is activated, the data is captured, it goes to a secure cloud. The on-call team, a healthcare professional, gets the footage, decides if intervention is required, and immediately notifies through an incident form to the provider. Everything else goes into a monthly report. The other bits of data there simply tell you that we've got a very secure system. It's not easily in any way hacked. It's military style grade security. This slide simply shows you how it works. These two red squares are motion windows. And so we can set up a motion window anywhere in a resident's room. So it may be at night you want to check, is somebody being turned every 2 hours? So we put a motion window on the inside of their door. When their door is opened, it sends an alert. Is somebody at risk of falls? We can put motion windows around their bed. As soon as they step out of bed or try to move out of bed, it sets off an alert. It can go above someone's head if they're sitting in a chair, and there's an ability there then to immediately pick up if somebody's having a problem. This is a redaction window on the left-hand side, and again, it shows you how it works in the live view. The point is that in some care homes, someone may say, look, I want you to record everything that goes on in my room from an alert perspective, but if I'm on a commode or in a private moment, I don't want anybody to ever be able to monitor that. We're able to set up redaction windows on that basis, and then no one can actually see the resident if they're using the commode at that point in time. The system particulars. Written consent before use, that's an absolute non-negotiable. We seek to get consent from every single resident. The camera detects on a motion, a light, and a sound change. And we can set those up individually, or we can set up a combination of all three. So in some instance where we have maybe a challenging behavior client who moves about a lot, who is quite vocal, we can ensure that incidents are captured by setting them up on a collective basis. When the trigger, as I said, is activated, it only records. It doesn't record on a 24/7 basis. The email goes to the monitor views the footage, and then action is taken immediately. The number of times in our homes where something has happened, where a manager mightn't have been made aware of it for days and weeks, issues like unexplained injuries are just a thing of the past with systems like this. This system picks them up and alerts information to the person on call immediately. The monitors are, as we've said, are health and social care professionals. Each is registered, licensed and trained by the SIA, and only they have permission rights. And that's incredibly important. People have asked me, is there a room somewhere where somebody has a bank of screens and a joystick and anyone can actually view that? There is no room, there is no bank of screens. This works off an iPhone and simply, or a tablet, and the alert comes through to the individual on their iPhone, on a tablet, and they simply are able to view the image at that point in time. The images are retrieved and matched with a sound file, so not only do we see what's going on, but we can hear it. And on many occasions in the last 2 years when using this system, we've been able to hear the actual conversation between the 2 or 3 people involved in any altercation. And I can give you working examples. Resident-on-resident violence in a particular home, it was spotted within 2 minutes. An individual was literally giving creating a serious assault with another resident. That would never have been witnessed because it wasn't in a communal area, it was in a bedroom area. And that vulnerable resident was protected as a result of this system. Before the system went in, those 2 residents also lived there. And on other occasions, the resident who was abused had unexplained bruising. And so no one had witnessed it before, and yet the system had detected it this time. So the report that we provide to a provider comes out on a monthly basis. But in between that, on the incident reports, if we see something that we believe is a crime, we expect to get that circle closed within a 14-day period. So we report the incident to the provider. It's the provider who then makes a safeguarding referral or makes the referral to the police or the relevant regulator. And they simply let us know, and then we're able to close the file. We're also able, in the event of a crime, we're able to retain the data for a much longer period in an archive. These are the actual monitors, and the reason they'll not be happy that I've put their faces on a slide, but when you're on our website, if you click on their name, you will actually see all their biographies. And you will see that they're seasoned professionals, people who have been around the sector for a very long time. Some are social workers, some are LD specialists, some are nurses in elderly care. 2 of them are inspectors currently for the regulator, and they work with us on a part-time basis. The legalities. We currently have legal opinions from Irwin Mitchell, from DLA Piper, from Bernice Paul in Scotland, and from Carson McDowell in Northern Ireland. They're all leading legal firms, all of whom have spent quite a long time looking at all our policies and procedures, looking at all of our system, how it works, and all of them have opined that this system fully complies with the regulator guidelines, and it also complies with the European Human Rights Act, Articles 5 and 8. What are the system user benefits? There's a continuous set of eyes on your business and a friendly, we call ourselves, we're a critical friend. We're ultimately trying to support provider organizations in improving service. The cost efficiencies around safeguarding timeframes. When we install, the home that's using this the longest is over 18 months now. And whilst when we were putting it in at the time, people were nervous and concerned, we now, in the event of a safeguarding in that home, we often find safeguarding officers simply coming in and saying, can we see the footage last Thursday between 2 and 4 for room 33, please? And often as a result, safeguarding investigations are massively compressed into a 1 or 2 day open or closure period as a result. It allows evidence-based decision making. As a former home manager, I've made decisions on the basis of probability, whether something happened or it didn't happen, whether it was a witness or not. What was the likelihood of something happened? I've ended, unfortunately, people's careers on the basis of probability. Today, with systems like this, we're able to be much surer about what has actually happened. We provide the monthly report, which tells you what's happening well, what's not so well. Every subsequent monthly report is reporting on the previous month. Have those issues improved? How are you making progress? All of that is designed to help you maintain and sustain that quality. And it's got overwhelming support from families. When we set these services up, we go and meet all of the families, and we meet all the stakeholders, we meet all the regulators, and families are 96% bought into this. One poll did a UK poll across the general public, a whole different number of age ranges. 67% of people said that they wanted to see systems like this used in care environments. It protects staff from false allegations. If you were on our website, the One Show actually came up to one of our client homes and interviewed relatives, residents, staff, everyone completely independently of us. And they spoke to staff who initially had said we were concerned, we wondered how it would be, but this system has vindicated staff on a number of occasions, and as a consequence, staff over time have bought into it. The trials have definitely improved commercial performance. We're working with a number of clients who have had operational difficulties, and the result of those operational difficulties have asked us to become part of their toolkit. And whilst we've been working with those clients, we've assisted in the removal of embargoes, we've assisted in the ability to recover occupancy, and we've assisted in helping to build average fee rate as a result. One thing we're seeing with some clients is that they're becoming a benchmark in their locality, because social workers and others, when they hand out a list of 5 or 6 homes, are making it clear that in this particular home they used camera technology. They're not saying they endorse it, but they're simply making people aware of it. As a result, relatives are using that as a benchmark with other homes. And it is independent affirmation of quality, and by that I mean it's fine for me to say my homes are great, and it's fine for you to say your homes are great, but actually what's quite good is for a professional team of people with a duty of candour to actually say your homes are in very good shape and your quality is where you expect it to be. And so I'm going to finish most of the slides with a consent point. I cannot overemphasize the fact that consent has been sought on every occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. So we've got a few minutes. If there's any observations, questions, just views that you would like to express. I mean, from my point of view, this is, there's been debate about CCTV in care homes for a long time. People have talked about it. This seems to be a slightly more intelligent attempt at the same thing. As in, you know, it's not just monitoring for monitoring's sake. There's something there. Whether that's a good thing, whether that's still a bad thing, I don't know. What do you think? Have we got the mic?
Yes. Hello. Hi, Don. I'm here with the mic. It looks good, and it appears good, but there are a few questions they will arise, and the people are not very confident to promote this. The cameras, you know, we were advocating cameras in the communal areas. Yes, you're right. If the abuse has occurred in the room, then the camera can catch up. But there is a problem here. Some of, you know, if you read the newspapers and what has gone into the media, most of the abuse occurs while they are providing a personal care in the room. And that time, you can't have the camera on because the person may be naked. You can't have the camera on. And if that is the moment which is gone, half of the incentive to put this system in is gone. Now, what do you say about that?
Well, I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. First of all, there's the principle of consent. So if the resident knows that there's going to be an occasion where they're getting intimate care, and they've consented to that use, then neither you nor I have a right to say, well, we shouldn't use a camera. The second part of that is we have recruited health and social care professionals who are doing that as part of their daily life. And so the reality is, what's the difference between you bringing in an agency nurse who's never worked in an environment, who sees that person, and these individuals here who are all nurse and social workers, who are seeing those individuals on an everyday basis and who know what those individuals suffer with, have a pen profile and understand their needs. There is no difference.
So it's not a violation to the personal privacy and dignity?
Not if they've consented, absolutely. And whether they were naked or otherwise, unless we have their consent, we would never advocate use. Even though we have a redaction screen that says, look, we can put that over the commode area. But in many occasions, our team have witnessed very good personal care being delivered. And as soon as they realise that it's personal care and that, you know, there's nothing untoward, they stop viewing. But oftentimes people have been abused. We've all seen it on television. People have been abused during the delivery of intimate care. And so you can't have it, none of us can have it both ways, which is why it's important that the resident decide what they want and no one else.
Can I just ask a question? When it's the redacted screen, can you still hear, is the sound still there?
You can hear sound, yes, but again, with the redacted screen, if you don't want the sound, you can turn
You can
it off.
take that off.
And
Okay.
you know,
Thank you,
my
sir.
last thing to ask is: does the authorities agree with this?
The regulator and commissioners know in every instance where we've done an installation and we're
Gentleman,
operational, we've met the local regulators, whether it be CQC, RQIA, or commissioners, and they know we're doing it and they understand we're operating it. The regulator will never endorse it because for a regulator to endorse our product over anyone else's is clearly discriminatory, but they know that we're using it and they understand how it works.
And not that they would endorse it, but they're not saying you're doing so, they're not going into a care home and say you're doing something that breaches
No.
people's rights.
RQIA and CQC both have guidelines on their websites for the use of covert cameras, and they're very specific about how those cameras are used. When we got our legal opinions, ours is an overt system, ours is a consent-based system. I mean, I would argue anyone who puts a hidden camera in place and takes a shot of a resident and then goes and releases that shot to the press, where's the consent for the resident? The resident has got a photograph of themselves all over the Daily Mirror and no one has consented them. Our system is an overt system that everybody knows is there and only ever operates with consent.
Yes, sir.
My name's David Hogarth. I just had one question. Can you cover various different squares in the same room at once? Or is it just one square on one particular location?
No, you can put as many motion windows and as many redaction screens in an area, and you can shrink them and widen them and create whatever size you want with them. It takes, after the system is installed, it takes about 2 weeks to refine it properly, because it takes us about 2 weeks to fully understand how a resident's day operates and works. So there's constant refinement in that 2 weeks. And then every month we continue to relook at it, but you can put up as many windows as you like, David.
Thank you. The lady here.
Hiya, my name's Amy. I just had a query really. The first thing that popped into my head was what happens in communal areas if certain residents have opted to, well, they've consented or not consented. What happens there?
There is no requirement for consent in a communal area.
Okay.
So it's no different to you or I going into Tesco's or anywhere else and saying, take that down, I don't want it if I'm going to shop here. You know, any new resident coming in knows that in the communal areas, there are cameras. We're required under law to put up signage in all of the communal areas, and that's effectively what we do.
Sorry, just to follow on from Amy, we're kind of a team. So you wouldn't necessarily seek consent, just to clarify what you said, in a
I'm saying
communal area?
It's not legally required,
Okay.
but we always try to get it. So we meet all of the relative groups, we meet all of the residents themselves, we talk to them, we show them how the system works, and we seek their approval. I think that there's been one instance where a family member didn't want it in their room and was unhappy about it in the communal areas. What we agreed in the end was we would trial it and we would show them ultimately the benefits of that system.
Can I just ask one really quick question, then I'll pass on? When you're seeking this consent, is it kind of on a one-time written basis, or is it more of a kind of evolving process?
No, I mean, it's an evolving, there's a written basis. For people with capacity, it's written consent on day one. For people without capacity, the camera cannot go on until a best interest assessment, for example, has been completed, and we've got that finding. So it really depends on individual circumstances.
But for example, the people with capacity, do you ever find that maybe down the line they might
they
withdraw
change.
that consent?
Yeah, yeah. No, we would, at that point, we would seek to have consent replaced, either through an assessment or through an advocate.
She asked your question, did she? Yeah, okay. One more, if there is anybody who has one more, because our time is nearly up. Gentlemen.
If it's event-based, how does it work in a communal area, which presumably has events happening all the time?
It's not working like that in a communal area. Sorry, I should have been clearer. That works totally like that in a bedroom area. In a communal area, it's conducted on a random sampling basis. So it's recording in the communal area on an ongoing basis. and our monitors are random sampling on those areas. So if I showed you a live monthly report right now, you would see we come up with things like medicine trolleys left open in communal areas, people being distracted when they're doing medicines, through to, you know, domestic staff leaving bits and pieces lying around, resident on resident issues, that sort of thing. At night, every camera can be set up on a time basis. So at night, we can switch them over to an alerting basis. And so when people are generally in their rooms at night, somebody comes out of their room, anything happens in a communal area, we pick it up.
Okay. Thank you, Philip. Thank you very much. That's the end of this session. Could I ask you to take your rubbish with you when you go? That would be very kind. And there should be feedback forms. We'd be very grateful if you could fill the feedback forms in. That would be really helpful. And thank you for coming. And one last thing, if we just give a thank you to Philip for his presentation.